Welcome to the Diaspora Door podcast, where stories soar and cultures collide. Join us as we journey through vibrant voices and untold tales from around the globe. Let's celebrate the heartbeat of the diaspora together.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Diaspora Door, and I am your host, Nzeo Bonello. It is so great to be here with you today. Thank you for taking the time to be with us on the Diaspora Door. What a week, my friends. Holy smokes. I'm excited to talk about the week with our guests, and I will introduce them in a moment. This past week, unless you were living under a really large rock surrounded by forestry and a hippopotamus sitting on the rock, you're getting my point. This was an incredible weekend, especially Saturday, because that was the No King's Day, where rallies occurred all over the United States of America. In the smallest towns to the largest city centers, people came out in throbs, like people, tens of thousands of people came out to peacefully march, protest, show their support for their fellow citizens, to show their support and opposition of various policies that the current administration of the United States has put in place. Many of you have heard all those policies, whether you're for them or against them. Everyone has heard them in the United States. And Saturday was a time where people who are passionate, as we all should be, about our fellow citizens and each other and ourselves, to let it be known in a democratic society what we stand for, what people of the United States stand for. And that's a lot coming from me, the Canadian Nigerian, as you guys know, me and this Canadian thing. I got my passport in my back pocket as I reside here in the United States. It was phenomenal for me. I was fortunate to attend 2 rallies, and the numbers of people who came out, whether they were young, old, and I mean young, like 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. I saw them carrying I saw some little 5-year-old girls in their tutus with their crowns, carrying their little sign saying, "He's a bad man." Kudos to those parents who were bringing children and the youth so that they could also see and understand what people are standing for in this country. So as I said, young, old, every ethnic group, race, nationality, religion, gender. People were just out there and wanted to let it be known how they stand and what they stand. And they were there for immigration, child welfare, women's health, education. Just the list goes on and on and on. Impressive that many people came out, because I know that there was some worry about, is there going to be a National Guard in certain cities? What's going to happen if we come out? I did, and it was sad for me to see. I did see people who had goggles and, they were worried about if tear gas happened and whatnot. And again, I will say peaceful rallies that occurred on Saturday. And that being said, at the same time, we had a young woman, she's now a young woman, who started her global book tour in the United States, and that's Malala Yousafzai, and she is a Pakistani young woman. You may remember, not you may, I'm sure you'll remember her from 2019, she was in Pakistan on a bus going home from school, and the Taliban came on her bus and shot her in the head. She was immediately rushed off to England for surgery and rehab, where she has been since. In Pakistan and many countries where the Taliban are there leading, they do not believe in women being educated. So kudos to her parents who had her at a young age, supporting her education and her access to education. And she, at that young teenage year, an activist, And today, we're very happy to say she graduated from Oxford University in England. That's not a simple university, my friends, with a degree in philosophy. So impressive. And it's a wonderful way for the intro for today's podcast, which we are talking to two stellar educators here and they're giggling, but they are stellar educators here in New Hampshire, and they are educators of color. So we're going to hear about the current state of education in New Hampshire, especially from their perspective as educators of color, and their students that they see in New Hampshire. Right now in New Hampshire, the percentages of students and teachers who are of color or from the Black, brown community, when you look at it, and we were just talking about that, and we'll talk about it more, when you look at it statewide, it looks like, the populations are small. Like, for instance, the population of students, Black or African-American students in New Hampshire is about 2%, while the percentage of Hispanic or Latino is 6.2. And when you look at that, you think, a small population. But then when you go into different school districts, for instance, Manchester, New Hampshire, you will see that the percentage of Hispanic students is almost 29%, and almost 11% for the Black students. And for a student who, for instance, might be in the Manchester school district, I'm seeing all kinds of people who look like me. So, poo-poo on your percentages. And what does that mean to me as a student that you're thinking I'm a minuscule percentage or 1% when I'm seeing many people here who look like me? As far as teachers, approximately 97.6% of the public K-12 teachers are white, non-Hispanic. And again, you're looking at, that's telling. I mean, for students not to see educators or leaders in education that look like them, that's going to have an impact on people. So again, it's important for us to keep those numbers in perspective, but also to think about what we're seeing. Just recently, there was, as far as I'm concerned, a punitive law that was put in place that our governor in New Hampshire signed off on, Governor Ayotte signed off on, which went in effect July 1 of this year. And it bans diversity, equity, and inclusion, as in DEI programs, and the teaching of discrimination. How the impact that must have, and our educators are going to let us know, what kind of muzzle, so to speak, does that put on educators? Like, then what can I teach? How can I teach it? To Kill a Mockingbird, for instance. I mean, that's a book that many of us read. That would be classified as something that would be banned. It's such an unfortunate situation. I know when I talk to my colleagues and friends in Canada, they're like, what? How does that work? And why? It's just very hard to talk about. And there are educators who are starting now to say, hey, I can't do it. In particular, there is an educator, I have great respect for her, Dr. Dottie Morris. And Dr. Dottie Morris is employed by Keene State College, which is in New Hampshire. And she, for the longest time, had been the vice president of institutional equity and diversity at the college. Once this ban was signed, her position changed to a title of vice president for community and belonging. Whatever that means, sugarcoating, and good on her, not having it. And she has now filed, a lawsuit against this ban. And she has many people, ACLU, working with her and others to really fight this. So the courage that she has to step forward to do this. I believe there'll probably be other people doing the same because it just does not make sense. So I just wanted to give people a little perspective as to, and of course you can also, go to Google and all these things and, form your own opinion, but just to let you, know where the state of the state is briefly. And again, we'll dive in more so. So coming to my two wonderful guests, and I so appreciate both of them coming here today. They've got busy schedules. So I have Clyde Perez Castaneda, and he is a 6th grade assistant principal in the Exeter, New Hampshire School District. And he says this could be seen as a mundane role. However, in the school district, there are approximately 70 folks in leadership, and he is leadership in K to 12, grades K to 12, and he's the only person of color in that leadership position. And he'll talk about his journey and how he got to his position in the school district. And he says it's a blessing and a challenge at the same time. He talks about his personal life, that he and his wife are both children of God. They have 10 children. There's got to be a story there. We got to hear that. He says it's a long, short story. So we're going to get, as Nigerians say, we're going to get the Natori on that, man. And his wife works as a director of special ed. So, you got education going. Those 10 kids, oh boy, no pressure. And his passion is his faith and growing a stronger interest in representing his culture. And he, as of recently, even more so, is making the efforts to really engage people so that they can understand what marginalized stakeholders in communities are dealing with and where people are coming from, and just understanding the experiences. He does work with educators of color and Black men's reflection groups. And those are steps to better understanding of Black and Brown communities. So our second guest is Tina Philibotte, and she is an education justice advocate and committed to nurturing, liberating spaces for youth and community. She's got a big focus, like Clyde, working with the youth. She resigned from her position with the Manchester School District in the fall of 2024 after serving 3 years as the district's first chief equity officer. She has a previous experience, 15 years experience in education and teaching dance at the high school and university levels. And she has accolades of awards that she has won. The BLM, New Hampshire's Academic Leader Award, the NAACP, Manchester's Excellence in Education. She has won an award with New Hampshire's MLK Coalition Social Justice. Like, the girl's got it going on, and you can go on and on, but we only have an hour. So she was also the New Hampshire State Teacher of the Year finalist and 2-time National Writing Project Fellow. She currently is at Boston University, and she's a doctoral candidate and doing her studies in educational leadership and policy studies. And Manchester is her hometown. And she does a lot with BIPOC educators, Black, Indigenous, people of color, and the New Hampshire Educators of Color, which also Clyde is a part of. So as you can see, and I had to sneak to look at my cheat notes because the resume and the experience and knowledge, talent that Clyde and Tina have is just phenomenal. So I'd like to start by having each of them let us know how they landed in New Hampshire because, spoiler alert, they're not originally from New Hampshire. So of all the states to come to, and it's a beautiful state, but still curious how people got here. So I started with Clyde's introduction. So I'm going to go to the lady in the house and start with Tina, just to let us know how she landed in New Hampshire.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
So I was born in Seoul, Korea, and was adopted. I was one of about 200,000 kids who were adopted, taken out of Seoul, Korea, and brought into the United States and Europe. Actually, it was the Holt Adoption Agency, which is an American adoption agency that actually invented international cross-racial, transracial adoption. So I was adopted by two, what we call in Manchester on the west side, French-Canadian white folks. And I flew in this big plane. And what happened if the kids were coming over from Korea, if somebody wanted a free flight, they'd take a bunch of kids and then fly them over to JFK, where the new adoptive parents would be waiting for them. So,
Tina, totally sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
What possessed your parents, French Canadians, to want to adopt a Korean child? That's very forward thinking, I would think.
I think one would think it was forward thinking. And also it was simply that my parents had three biological children already, 3 boys. And my mother always wanted to have a little girl. And so they tried to do to get a white baby from the United States. And it was very expensive, apparently. So
you were the Walmart option, I guess.
Yeah, no. I mean, no, I was definitely like a sale. So, and I would get there faster too. So it was the process in the United States, whatever process they were going through. So yeah, no, I definitely was more readily and more like available, more economical. But also, my mother wanted a girl. She was sick of being the only lady in the house. So. And I came. So I came over and I was 6 months old. I had 3 older brothers who were 4, 7, and 9 years, actually 14 years older than me. Wow. 4, 9, and 14 years older than me, yeah. So, I came to New Hampshire. I grew up in Manchester, went to public school, K through 12 in Manchester as the chief equity officer. My actual office was in West High School where I went to school. Wow. It was actually my old Algebra 2 classroom.
Post-traumatic stress would be for me.
Yeah,
algebra.
For sure. And actually my algebra teacher called me on my first day of work to say congratulations for getting the job. And I was like, guess where I am? Yeah.
Too funny. Your brothers, how did they adjust to sister all of a sudden, and then a sister that might not totally look like us?
Right. I mean, I think, growing up 1970s, 80s, 90s, it was an era of colorblind racial politics. Certainly in my house, I was told I was just like every other American white girl. We didn't talk about race. They would say that I was this like princess brought in from, another world. And they would say, my parents and them, I'm just like any other person. We all knew I wasn't, though.
Yes.
So that was a really hard thing to manage. But, I think being adopted, there was this fanfare with me coming in. I had different kind of moments, in terms of you get birth certificates, you get, first communions in the Catholic community and everything. I had a naturalization event, right? In a court. That was a big deal that we celebrated. I had a couple other, like, because of my adoption status that we celebrated. And so my brothers got, a birthday. So just one, right? And then, so definitely I was initially viewed as this like princess. But the reality is that when I came on board, I already had 3 older brothers. There was already a baby in the family. And even though I was the youngest, he was definitely the baby. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Clyde, top that, my friend.
So I actually drove from California to here. I was married at the time, I was 23. And I hadn't been speaking to my parents. My in-laws at the time had moved to Bedford, New Hampshire for work. And my wife at the time was very close to her parents and portrayed the idea that of us coming to live here. So I thought it would make her happy. I can tell you that on that drive, I showed up in Vermont, needed gas. It was probably about maybe 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I remember, and I love telling the story, that I drove down the embankment and there was a gas station. You see in the movies, it's just the gas station lights and just trees everywhere. And I saw this
Beautiful trees.
I saw this bald man's head leaning against the window. And
Stephen King.
And I remember that we normally die first in the movies. So I said, nope, and drove right back around. I remember driving through the New Hampshire tolls and like screaming, is anybody here? Not realizing there was a 75-cent bucket you just threw change in.
Yeah.
I was sitting there like, I sat there, everybody had told me, do not drive past tolls because the cops will come get you like immediately, right? So I'm sitting there like at least 20 minutes, like, why is nobody coming to take my money? So it finally, light on Don head, Dent's head, and I see this bucket, and I was like, all right, let's try it. So I just threw some change and it took off. And just kept looking in the rearview mirror. I knew somebody was coming to get me soon, but that didn't happen. I would meet the very next morning, a very good friend of mine who passed pretty early in his life, Billy Choate. And he was on top of the roof. And he said, you ever roof a house? And I said, no. And he said, you're going to today. And the first thing I did in New Hampshire was roof a house.
Get out.
I kid you not. And it was what they call an Indian summer, I guess. It was super hot, like in November.
Wow.
So it was like super hot that November. And then the very next December, it was the winter of that they call, and there was like 6 feet of snow in one of those things. So
California boy.
Yeah, I went from I'd heard something about Africans that were coming here and didn't have a word for snow. Right, it's just that it almost felt like that for me. It was just huge. But I was here for 2 months. Separated. 2 months later, I was divorced from my wife. Yes,
who I
came to live with my in-laws.
Goodness.
I was separated after 2 months and divorced after 4. I lived in a friend's trash room. So we cleared out the trash and I put down a twin bed and my feet stuck out the door.
Oh my goodness, Clyde.
Yes. So
wow.
Where I get the 10 kids from is
Resilience, man.
I had a daughter at 18. She stayed in California. And I had a daughter with my wife. So when we moved here, she was an infant. Then I had separated and got married like 2 years later. She had a daughter and I had 2 sons from her. My sister would drop off her 3 sons and I adopted them.
Wow.
Yes.
My friend.
So 2 years after adopting them, got divorced again and remarried just last year. And thank you. And she has 2 boys, and that makes my 10.
Wow, my friend. What
Were you counting on the way?
Wait a minute. There's something else coming soon.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So how did you? Wow, talk about life changes. We did a podcast on
Sure.
transitions in life never end. How did you keep yourself sane through all of that?
Well,
And you're a roofer.
yeah, and I'm a roofer. So I think now when I look back on it,
Yes.
I've often said that if you ever looked into the reason why you should have faith, go back and look at your life from starting to now, and there's going to be times where you should not be here.
Yes. Yeah.
And so when people ask, "Hey, Clyde, how you doing?" I said, "I'm on top of the world, and I'm not supposed to be this lucky. I'm blessed and highly favored, and I'm not supposed to be this lucky." I was challenged once by somebody saying, "Why are you so highly favored?" I said, "Do you know where I'm at compared to where I've been? I'm not supposed to be here.
idea.
You have no idea. I am not worthy of this, and here I have it." So this, I mean, when I recognize what the Lord has done in my life, I look at some of those spaces of, living in a trash room. I had wrote a book called Mind of a Cheater. I haven't published it yet, but the book starts out with late at night, I'm 5 years old, man is under my mother's bed, somebody she was dating, and he's grabbing me by the nose while my mother is grabbing me by the hair, and he's trying to pull me under the bed, and the only safe place in the room was on top of the bed. That is like in the first stanza of the book.
Wow.
That's actually what happened at this time. So
Wow.
to think of, that life of
Incredible
what
soul.
life was, and for it to be what it is, I'm far too blessed to not recognize that there's something more out there looking out for me, and he's my Lord and Savior. So.
But you know what, Clyde, my friend, you're not giving yourself enough credit, because you could have easily, hands up, I've had all these things happen to me. I can't do it. I'm checking out. And certainly you did not.
Recognize that the name of the book is Mind of a Cheater. I had done that.
Yeah.
I had thrown my hands up I don't know how many times, and what I was doing was basically becoming my own God, saying, listen, I'm just going to do it the best way I know how.
Yeah.
I've been hurt, so when I hurt, it just balances things out. It's just kind of who I'm going to be, and I'm going to be my own God, and we'll just let the chips fall where they may. And I think that's kind of in the vein of me recognizing the consequences of that. Is I don't talk to any of my children. The consequences of that are I'm estranged from my family. The only family I have is the family that I've made.
Yes.
So in recognizing that, most people will say, well, if there's God out there, then why don't you have these things? No, you still live out the natural consequences of your behavior, right? And you still have to live out those choices. So in recognizing that, where you say, well, you didn't do this. Well, at some point in time I did.
Yes.
And that's kind of why I've had these consequences in my life. But, I recognize that it's built my perseverance. And that's one of the things I'm most happy for, is that I tell people, I was asked once before, what would happen if you lost your job? And I say, that doesn't scare me. I've been broke before. One of the things I tell people, learn how to be broke before somebody makes you broke.
Good.
Right.
Yep,
So
good point.
you want to scare me? Give me $1 million. I have never had $1 million before. I don't know. And the worst thing is, I have probably some terrible people in my life that would show up because I had $1 million. So I'm exactly where I need to be.
Look at that. Look at that. Not to make this the Clyde show.
Yeah, please. You asked.
The last. No, I did. One more thing I'd like you to share with the listeners: how you got into your role as assistant principal. That also was not a slam dunk.
That's where my faith really, really shines. I was a special ed case manager for 9 years, Southside Middle School. And
again, moved from the roofer to
yes,
special ed. Yeah.
I was in debt collections for 15 years. and got out of debt collections and wanted to do something for the world instead of to it. So that's how I got into education. I moved when I received my CAGs. I finished my CAGs.
CAGs, you have to explain. For
The
people.
Certificate in Advanced Graduate Studies, and that's basically how you become a principal or administration. So I went to high school, Timberlane High School, fantastic school, just to see if I wanted to be an administrator in middle school or high school. And the special ed director there saw something in me and said, "You need to take this position." And I was like, okay. He was moving to Massachusetts to be an administrator there. And phenomenal fella. And so I interviewed for it. It was going to be quite a raise. We needed the money. And I just thought it was the right place because they liked me. And I prayed on it. And Lord, this is what I want to do. And they're telling me to do this is the right way to go about it. And after the interview, it was a really quick interview. And it was like a latte, a lot of foam, not a lot of substance, right? So
Love it.
I get an email on the way home the next day, and they went with somebody else. And I cried. Boy, I cried. I remember going down the road, and I was yelling at God, "You told me to ask. You told me to ask." So I go home, and there's an email from Exeter. And I told my wife, "Exeter." Yeah, right. They're trying to fill a quota. So she said, "You better go to that interview."
You and your quota.
you ain't until you got a half a job right now. So I go in my blue suit. I think, every man's got that one suit, right? And I went in my suit. And it was an amazing interview. Andres Mejia, who was our DEI director for SAU 16, I had been asked, how do you think you're going to connect with our students? And I had used a word that I learned in my Bible study. It's called sayabona, and it's a Zulu term, and it's "I see you with my heart." And I and I used that in the meeting. And at the end of the meeting, Andres said, "Clyde," he goes, "Sayabona, I think I speak for all of us that we saw you with our hearts today." And there was this little boy jumping around in my chest, and I was trying to be James Earl Jones. That whole time. It was like really cool, calm, and collected. I went out there. Oh my gosh, I did a shimmy when I walked out of there.
And please don't forget, because I know you, when I first met you, you told me this story. He remembered you from
No, I was just about to get to that.
Sorry, interrupting.
So at the beginning of that meeting, Dave Ryan walked up to me and he said, "You don't remember me, do you?" And I said, "I kind of remember you, but where do I remember you from?" He said, "I hired you as a teacher." This was 10 years before now, okay? Wow. "I hired you as a teacher." Wow. And I said, "Oh." And he goes, "Do you know why you're here?" And I said, "My resume?" And he said, "When I hired you, you said something that has stuck with me for the rest of my life." And I said, "What's that?" And he goes, "You wanted to be somebody you needed when you were growing up." And I said, "Oh yeah, I say that a lot."
Beautiful.
And for that man to pull my resume, when you apply, you have to apply with the amount of years you have. So all of my admin applications were zero. Yeah. I had no experience. But that man, to be in that position, who had hired me that long ago, to just pull my application and say, "You know what? I think we need you," and let them figure it out. Wow. And that was the opportunity.
And carry the rest.
And I walked out, and when my last meeting was with him, before I had to meet with the district folks. And when I walked out of his office, I looked up and I said, "I'm sorry." I'm sorry, because his plan has always been better than mine.
Beautiful. Thank you, Clyde. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. It's a beautiful story. And please, Tina, before we go into what is going on in the state, please, how did you get to be the chief equity officer? Because you were the first.
I was the first. So I was the first in the Manchester School District. And the first actually in the state, and Andres and I came in within a month of each other.
Wow.
So yeah, no, I mean, I actually taught English and dance at Goffstown High School for about 13 years. I also taught at PSU. And then during that time, I was also doing DEI consulting with a couple organizations, doing trainings and stuff. At the end of my time at Goffstown, I mean, it was COVID.
Wow.
It was COVID, and it was really hard. And as a dance teacher during COVID,
Can't do that remote.
you can't do it remotely, but we did, right?
Wow.
So I just remember having a camera set up in my basement, and I tried to make it look not like a basement, but it was a basement for sure. But when we came back, I was able to come back with students, and I think that was like 2020, masks on. In my English classes, we went outside, and I love teaching. And at Goffstown, we created one of the only concert dance programs at a public school in the state, which is a big deal for me because when I grew up in Manchester, we didn't have money and I couldn't take dance classes. So I wanted to make sure that was available for all kids.
Yes.
So, and we made that available. So that was really cool. And I had, on our Nutcracker, we had the whole starting lineup of the football team as the soldiers. So yeah, I mean, the kids thought it was a dance program. It was about mentorship and caring for each other and community. So
beautiful.
Yeah, and I feel like when we talk about DEI, that's it.
Yeah.
It's being in community with each other,
Definitely
listening and learning from each other, caring for each other. This job comes up. And I did not want to take the job. I did not want to apply. I wanted nothing to do with it. I just saw trouble all over. Right? And mind you, so that was that 2019, 2020, 21. So George Floyd's murder, Breonna Taylor, there was this upheaval in this, racial reckoning. So
yes.
They said. And then a friend of mine called me multiple times and he asked me, he's like, you should apply. Just apply and see what happens. And I'm like, I just feel like, anyway, I applied, right? And then...
and of course I'm going to get it.
No, I mean, I didn't think so. I went in to the interview, and it was a Zoom interview. I was literally in the office at my high school. And my high school team, they were really supportive of just the efforts and everything. So they were... yeah. So I didn't hear back for a month. So I was like, okay, I'm going to continue being an English teacher and a dance teacher and do my consulting. I'm happy. And that's a problem I don't need to have, And then I get a call and I'm like, uh-oh. So,
wow. Now what?
Yeah. I mean, I think what happened too is like Clyde, it was growing up in Manchester at the time. It isn't the Manchester of today. And today, Manchester, the student population in terms of racial diversity is about 53% of the kids are racially diverse, right? When I was growing up, it was probably 97, 98% are white. And then there was me. And then two Black kids, right? We all knew each other
too. We knew each other. Yeah.
So, and it just growing up in Manchester was super hard. And folks didn't know how to relate with me. And it was my job to make sure I fit into everybody else.
Yeah.
Right? But the role, what happened is we come in and Andres and I get these inaugural jobs. I go into the Manchester School District to the Board of School Committee, and they give you the official blessing that we will hire you. The board says yes. Yeah. I go in there I was voted in. And then 3 days later, Governor Sununu signed the first generation of classroom censorship laws. So
there's your trouble. You knew it. You sniffed it.
Yeah, there was a trouble. So it was, it wasn't just previous to that too. When it was HB 544, it was a House bill. It did not pass. It didn't make it, but it gets through just like Dottie's HB2. It was our 2021 HB2. It was attached as a rider bill on the House budget, and it puts the leadership in a no-win situation. Yeah. So they signed this thing. I mean, of the people I gave testimony when the bill was coming through, my daughter gave testimony at the time. My daughter was a senior in high school.
Wow.
And what happened then too is that they were on Zoom and they said all of these things about they don't want to just learn about white folks anymore. They want to learn and know about people, a true history, want to see themselves reflected in their curriculum. They want their teachers to have a better sense of who's in their classroom.
Yeah.
And the folks were senators and such were commending my child, Republican and Democratic alike, commending my child for, showing up today and participating in the process.
Yes.
And then Maddie.
Take your time.
Yeah. Sorry.
Gets off of the call,
Mm-hmm.
clicks off of Zoom, and then immediately, like somebody who was in that space, and we would later find out it was an adult who lived in New Hampshire, doxed my child, put their photo up, put all of their social media links, put their picture, put this is where this kid goes to high school.
Yeah.
And
This is an adult.
An
This is a
adult,
grown-
yeah. And then within seconds, a whole slew of death threats came through.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think for me, like, obviously I tell the story and every time I still get emotional.
How would you not? How would you
Yeah.
not?
And I think when I gave testimony later, I had said to the folks, like, this is what this law elicits.
Yes.
That
yes.
an 18-year-old girl is going to show up and participate in the democratic process and will get their life threatened.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the other reason, though, why I ended up taking the job, though, is because this was all happening. That was May. I get when it was HB 544 and it was still being discussed. Mm-hmm. And then by the end of May, it doesn't pass and we think we're okay. But, I'm trying, for me, it was about being the educator that I didn't have, also, and being the educator that I wanted my child to have. And so when I was finally offered the job, it was like, this is a larger opportunity to fight. Yeah. And to go back to Manchester, a place that I had left that had done harm to me.
Yeah.
And so, and to finally say, like, it can be different. It doesn't have to be this way. Mm-hmm. So 3.5 years later, what ended up happening is so I'm going to go back. So 2021, Andres and I take these roles. The HB2 first generation of classroom censorship laws comes through. And that generation was like a leader in the United States. So New Hampshire is like the bellwether for this kind of censorship and anti-DEI, anti-CRT laws. So what happened in New Hampshire is ours included a part where if a teacher were to defy this law, right, to essentially, the language is to inculcate children.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean?
Exactly. Into believing that one race is superior to another race. And like, we don't do that as that's not even a thing, right?
Yeah.
There's no, and also, what does that mean? And after asking folks like time and time again, tell us what kind of guidance can you give us? It was just so vague. So what happens is Andres and I very quickly join a lawsuit within the first 6 months of our tenure as the first chief equity officers in the whole state at public schools. And that made us real popular.
Oh, yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when we started talking to the ACLU about joining the lawsuit, it was really about, we have no standing if we're not in our jobs. So even if we chose to join the lawsuit, our fear was we were going to get fired and therefore would have lost our jobs.
Yes.
Would not be in a lawsuit and had no position to fight. But we chose to join the lawsuit in our independent capacity as DEI administrators and not representing our school districts. And we won.
Yeah.
We won.
And well done.
We won,
Well done.
yeah.
Full disclosure, I am a board member of ACLU New Hampshire.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, the thing too is that lawsuit too, now Dottie is in this next generation of laws. And so they up the ante now in this Trump era. So today's HB2, right, is picking up where yesterday's HB2 left off.
Sure.
And they're not going to take away a teacher certification if they defy the law.
No.
They're going to take away federal
For the
funding.
funding.
Yes.
Like whole pieces of federal funding.
Yeah.
You're talking Title I, right, which is free and reduced lunch funding, Title II, teacher training, right, technology efforts, all like they're going to pull
It's
that.
incredible.
Yeah, and puts districts in this impossible situation. And luckily, not luckily, I mean, this is what's right. And I don't think this is luck at all. This is what's right. Dottie is now, James McKim is now a part of this lawsuit. NEA is a part of this next generation of lawsuit. And they already received an injunction that for the folks that they are representing and their students, that they are not subject to this law as that goes through the courts. So when I was at the hearing with Dottie, and they mentioned one of the reasons why they were able to give the order, right? Because they were questioning the validity of the law. And they had referenced back to Andres's and my lawsuit from 2021 in saying that our judge had suggested then that was not valid. And so we're holding that as precedent here and considering that today. So it was this like collective effort that we're all lifting together. So that's how I became the chief equity officer. And then after 3 years, in that space, when I was in Goffstown, I was for 10 years the only teacher of color in the whole district. There's 500 teachers.
Wow.
In Manchester, in Manchester, you have student population, 53% of whom were racially diverse. That was not reflected in the staff.
Right.
It was not reflected in the staff. What was still reflected in the staff was similar numbers to what you're seeing across the state, right? So you're talking 97% of teachers are white. So similar to that in Manchester.
So you guys talk about how do we get there? It's not like people aren't applying who are of color, would you say?
I agree to some degree. I can tell you that where I am in Exeter, I know that in Manchester, I was in committees hiring, right? Unfortunately, I had heard in those committees, I don't know that I'm going to see them at soccer. It was really more about how that person was going to connect with the culture of teachers, not with the culture of students.
Yeah, I don't think they're the right fit.
I don't think they're the right fit.
Yeah.
This is what they're saying about people of color.
About people of color. In all earnest, we hired a...
Have they watched the European football, soccer, and African Cup?
We had this young man come from San Jose. He was from San Jose. I don't know exactly where he was living at the time when he interviewed with us. But he had an alt, and he had created programs. He had created all kinds of things for wayward students and so on and so forth. Had brought his absenteeism that was happening in San Jose. And mind you, if you know anything about San Jose, they've got some really tough neighborhoods. But in turn, turned the whole program around and did a lot of work with stakeholders and so on and so forth. We had a counselor who thought, I might want to do this, who also had an alt. And
What's alt?
basically, you don't have the certificate to actually go into that position. So you have some qualifications that will lead you into that position. And then you have so many years to finish that certification in that position while you're doing the position. And the counselor got the job. The counselor was a counselor, not a special ed counselor, not anything. It was the special ed assistant principal position. This man had done it all with all. And we didn't take him because he just wasn't going to be a good fit.
Wow.
Whereas I'm an Exeter and we hired Spanish lady for Spanish class. You understand? I think she's from Mexico. I bring her tamales. So we have this, we're aware.
Yeah.
We're aware of who's coming in, what the need is, where this person's going to be hired, and what it is that we're doing. I'm not saying that we're only taking the concern of this one thing, but I have been in that position where that's been done. So I know we're not doing it because it felt gross when it was happening.
But
right?
I want to be clear, though, too, in terms of pipelines, in terms of education pipelines from, high school to college, right? Because of issues where we're not preparing all students equally to enter these college experiences, right? That pipeline starts from kindergarten, from pre-K.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So if we have these students who are in these in these, oh my goodness, I'm at a loss for words, but, students growing up who are students of color, right? Marginalized identities, right? Who already are managing issues of low income experiences, partly because of their marginalized identity, right? Because systemically it all kind of lands here. So you have this concentration in these red line districts, right? And then we keep moving through and you have mostly white teachers who don't understand the experience of, say, even a Korean adoptee who's being raised by white folks, right? Yes. Never mind my friend who is, and his brother, they're Black and everything. And I don't ever remember reading a book or in anything about by a person of color. We did read Huck Finn, and that was terrible. So I was just like, oh. But anyway, so so the pipelines for college, like you have significantly less, right, Black and brown youth entering that pipeline. Yeah. So now to be a teacher, you have to come through college. There's that certification, 4 years bachelor's degree, right? So you don't actually have tons of folks of color wanting to join the education space, right? Because it doesn't really pay that well. Yes. It's not really sexy. Being a teacher is hard work. So that being said,
they're up against all of this.
Well, especially now. Especially now. So a few years ago, actually, it was 2020, myself and a colleague of mine, we founded the New Hampshire Educators of Color to create spaces where educators of color who are currently in the field or about to join the field to be able to sustain our experiences, share our stories, support each other, create a network to say, if Clyde has a job coming up
that network is something dope.
Be a move,
that network is something dope.
And that was like the single most important thing, being in a community with each other and creating a space where even though in our individual schools, we might be the lonely only, right? Yes. As a network, we have a community together. And really that's about sustaining us. And it's also about teacher retention. Right? Yes. The impact of one Black teacher, right, increases for a Black student, right, is going to increase absenteeism, right, by 60%. Access to graduation.
Decrease.
Decrease by 60%. Yeah, absolutely. Like college access, high school graduation, college access, like through the roof. 1 year with one Black teacher.
Did you know that there's almost the same impact on white students with that Black teacher?
So expand upon that.
She just said there's a decrease for a Black student for 60%. When I did the studies, there was a decrease in absenteeism for white students by 35%. So there was, it was an idea of I'm learning more from more, right? As opposed to I'm stuck in this hallway and only see what I'm being told to see. So you could see that there was just a stronger impact by seeing the diversity around them that represented the world they was about to go into. And I think that matters.
I think it makes sense too, is because like you and I are coming up in totally different kind of experiences, but we do experience being people of color in mostly white spaces.
Yeah.
And for that reason, our ability to empathize with folks who are different from us, I feel like it has increased. That's how we persevere.
Yes.
That's how we continue to survive. And a lot of times I see, like, especially in New Hampshire, right? Like, you can't tell me that we're in New Hampshire and folks are not discriminating against youth by the way that we do not fund education. So for us, our ability to relate to our students and to see our students and care for them, know that, okay, all right, so I have the student in here and they're the only, just like I was years ago. I'm going to make sure that I'm checking in with them. I'm going to make sure we're reading authors in my English class that are racially diverse, that look like them, that look like me. So people know that even though you're only seeing me, like, there are more folks who are doing big things out there. And we're going to try to create that access any way that we can. And being able to connect with the youth too. And especially, you know, so I'm the only teacher of color. You're one of very few in that space. The few, this is a rural suburban school district at the time too. The few kids of color there, even if they weren't in my class, they were coming to me to get support and to have discussions and to kind of talk out what just happened to them and to be validated. Like, yeah, what just happened to you is not okay. So I think the impact of us being Andres, I mean, I remember Andres Mejia when he started his role as the DEI administrator in Exeter. He just remembers this one Black boy coming up to him out of nowhere and just giving him a hug. He started crying. He said, "Who are you?" I have never seen a black man in my school in my life. And they just, you know, it's a big deal that representation matters.
Of course,
matters,
of course, to self-esteem and everything. So, Clyde, while you were in school, what are your teachers able to teach with the band and educate? Like, what does that mean?
I think, and I have to say that what I've seen from my school district is rather ferocious. It has teeth, and I don't know how to actually fully explain it. Stratham is one of the schools that fall into my middle school. They have a racial unity collective, right? And they're part of our SAU. I have a Jewish teacher, a Jewish music teacher that teaches Negro hymnals. They actually sing that as part of one of their chorus instructions. D. Wall has the Taj Mahal of libraries. This library has almost anything and everything you want to find.
But are they allowed to? So how does that work?
In the case of recognizing what you can and can't do, I don't see the guardrails stopping anybody from doing anything. Okay. Our chief equity director right now is Arlen Pauletta, and she's amazing. I don't know how she stays as upright as she is, because she's everywhere and nowhere at once. I mean, she's just constantly going, and you see her for very short amounts of time because she's on to the next thing. But she's representative. And I remember in the hiring of her, the part of that conversation was, are we going to hire a white lady for equity? Yeah. Right? Yeah. And we couldn't have made a better decision. And mind you, they were really good people, but I think that goes down to being in those conversations and recognizing that people were really trying to find the best person who was going to have that conversation. And one thing that Arlen said that got me was, I manage people's white tears. And I don't have a problem talking to them about their white tears. And I was like, oh.
But I also want to name, though, right? So Andres and I come in, and then after us, quickly within a year, 2 more districts bring in DEI administrators like us. So that was Concord and Oyster River. Yeah. Of the 4 positions that began in that era, right, in 2021, only 1 is left.
Yep.
And it's yours.
Yeah, and it's ours.
Yeah.
And so that talk to me, that talks
Position
about our
itself,
district
not
as a whole.
even
Yeah,
one of us being in the position.
Yeah.
Those positions don't exist.
exist anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when they came up with this new HB, right? We as administrators, oh gosh, I remember it was Esther Asbel was our superintendent at the time. The labor of signing that document that was, you have to sign on this or your funding might be, and Tina made a really good point. It's not about teachers' pay anymore. It's about the whole enchilada. We will threaten your whole district. And I just remember the labor that we went through of, do we put our names on this? How is it what is it going to say to our children that we sign this? They were worried from top to bottom about how this was going to impact us. And it was great because all I could do was reference what I knew. And I didn't know anybody else was going through this like us in this very white environment. And how were we going through it when we had such small numbers of ... You whatever you wanted to, whatever BIPOC portion you wanted to find, we had such small numbers of it, but we were represented, and we wanted to we were representatives, and we were representing them. And it was amazing. It was amazing what we went through.
But it comes from the top,
Yes,
right?
right?
Yeah.
And that's when Chris Andriskey, who is our current superintendent, he asked me, he said, so what is your leadership style? And I said, well, I'm a servant. Well, how are you going to manage things that don't go well? And I said, well, here's the thing. In community, if we're all just ditch diggers, we're all just doing our job. You look up, somebody else, you keep doing your job. So now bosses are for whatever reason, but everybody's doing the work. I said, from a top down, if I'm serving, that's the modeling that I expect. So who wins? He goes, well, the kids do. And I said, right. I said, if I really want to impact the lives of children, I have to manage well and serve the people who are treating those children.
Yes, of course.
Right. So now you have this man who doesn't look like everybody else coming in with this heart into the building. And now these kids that do look like him, these kids that don't look like him, now it's not about who they are, whatever. I now have to model this heart.
Yes.
Right. And that has nothing to do with my culture. It doesn't have to do anything, my skin, my hair, my whatever. And I think that those things matter. But I will say that you noticed I do have a haircut.
Yes. Our listeners will see on the website that the fro that Clyde was sporting before.
So I get to be a bit of representation myself. I get to, when my hair is out, it's an afro. When my hair is tight, it's in cornrows, or now I've got it, in my fade. Kids get to ask questions that they naturally see where that something is somewhere else, but they don't know they don't have anybody safe to ask that of.
Exactly.
And now they have me, and I think they're making better connections that way.
And look at you in talking about the hair, because we all know the stories we heard about students who were asked they're at school and nope, you can't have.
No, I have three beautiful young ladies that have been in I have three beautiful young ladies that are in my school, and from 6th grade to 8th grade, the first 5 weeks, braided hair.
Yeah.
And I got tired of them feeling like chia pets. Everybody wanted to touch their hair. Oh my gosh, let me as though, and so what I started to do was just come in with an afro. That was far more bombastic than you wearing braids, right? There's not a teacher in this place. And what's always funny is the curly-haired ladies. Well, my hair could do that too if I put it wouldn't, and stop it. And stop it. No, it would not. No, it's just curly, friend. That's all it is. It is not this.
You are so funny. That is so funny, Clyde. So, Clyde and Tina, are people looking to come into the teaching profession with all of this? Like, it's daunting. And as you said, the pay, And then if you're a person of color, I mean,
Well, 2 years ago, 2024, 25, 30%. So of the colleges in New Hampshire who were graduating teachers, it had a decrease of 30% of teachers, right?
Wow.
So they were not graduating nearly as many teachers. Our needs had increased,
yes.
right? And especially during this post-COVID era where we were just able, a lot of folks had the funds to bring in more educators. It just wasn't an option. So then now we're going to talk about teachers of color. So if you're decreasing the pool, by 30%, and there was only like 1 in 10 teachers were like,
to begin with.
That pretty much like statistically. And that's like where the educators of color come in. Like we are connected into these teacher certification programs. So if we have a young candidate of color coming through, like this is a good time to embrace you and to help you, support you, go through your student teacher experience and have you come into our retreat. And be a part of it. So you're going to have a community. We'd also love it if you stay in New Hampshire.
Yes.
And that's a hard thing to ask.
Yeah, that's a big one
to ask. I mean, I remember when I graduated from college, my mentor, who was a white woman, Dr. Peterson, she was the director of the National Writing Project and the graduate program at PSU. See, I'm old, PSU. But I was ready. Plymouth State. Yeah. I mean, at the time I was young and I was like, I want to leave the state. I want to finally go around and be among people who look like me. I want to raise my child among people
Speaks
who look
a lot
like
today,
us. And she's like, I have no right to ask this of you at all, but I'm gonna. Please stay in New Hampshire. It didn't need to be this way for you.
Right.
You can change that for other kids. And then, so I stayed.
The warrior.
But partly, I was like, you can't just pick up and move, right? Like that requires money.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any. At the time, I was a single mom. I had 6 jobs. So, but
I think that goes back to, and I see you, Tina, and when I hear your story, you model that being somebody you needed.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
This being somebody you needed when you were growing up in these spaces that, and I tell kids all the time, I have a big sign in my office when 6th graders come in, they've just been 5th graders, right? So their boo-boo's been kissed and so on and so forth. And they come in and let me tell you, I'll have kids walk in the door crying before they've even talked to me about the consequence, right? So I have this sign in my office that says, I do not learn from those I am afraid of. And I have them read it out loud. And then the next thing I ask is, do I look like the boogeyman? And then we have this conversation. That didn't happen for me. I was swatted by a white man who told my mother I had to teach him a lesson because he doesn't know how to behave.
And when you say swatted, you mean hit.
I mean, I had a paddle taken to my behind with my mother outside the door. Right? Teacher smacking my hand with a ruler. There was no ADHD. There was no IEPs. There was none of that. You were a bad kid. You came from a bad family. And mind you, my uncles came to that school well before me. So they were waiting for me, right? So I know what it is to have a kid who may be a sibling of somebody who had some struggles at our school coming in worried that we was going to see him the same way that we saw that sibling. So getting to do this job in the way that I get to do this job is an amazing blessing for me in this particular way. And I have to tell you, I received a lot of flack for going to Exeter. Not that Manchester was going to hire me anyway, because I did fill in a lot of applications. But nonetheless, I got flack because I left Manchester, where I could have done so much more. But the Lord put me here to teach children, not a certain child, but children. And getting to do what I get to do in the position I get to do it, I know that, I'm doing it the best I know how.
Thank you. And thank you for doing it. I mean, both of you, what do you feel, what's the impact of all of this, the state, the bans and the current state of education in the diaspora? Because again, as you know, immigrants are coming from their homelands seeking better opportunity for their children. And does it hit them the way it hits other people about what education is bringing? Because a lot of immigrants, I can remember when my parents came, and they talked about how it was tough in Nigeria to get, education. You're paying for education, to have your uniform, all this kind of thing. And here you are in North America where, wow, public access to education? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So what impact? Do immigrants feel the fight? Do they feel that, wow, this is not what it should be, or their heads down that, hey, I'm here, the education's free, kids, get in there and get your school and get out?
I mean, I'll just speak to my experience recently in terms of registering to vote. When I go to register to vote, I know I have to bring every document, like utility bills, right? Yes, like everybody else when you move, but also I need my naturalization record. I need 10 copies of 10 different IDs. I need my passport. When you go to register, that passport should be enough.
Yeah.
But inevitably, it's not enough. And so you need to double down and have your naturalization record. So for me, I just don't love being constantly told I'm a foreigner. So even when I go to vote, right? So for some might call that intimidation. I don't know, right? So that's how I feel as an adult who grew up here, right? Not born here though. So what I think is, I think right now immigrant students are flat out afraid. Like, I will not fly out of the country right now because Koreans have been deported, right?
Yeah.
Who were
For
supposed
real.
to be here
Yes,
for real.
for real.
Right?
For real.
And I'm an Asian person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
My proximity to whiteness is very different. And
Yes.
it allows me privilege that my Black and brown students just don't get.
Yeah.
So we have students whose parents would love to get involved, but leaving the house is hard right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have students who, who are just, we're not going to cause trouble.
Yeah.
Right? Or we're not going to come to school.
Yeah.
Right? So where
So
absenteeism
sad.
is a
So
huge
sad.
issue.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Or if there's
And
something
they want to come to
they
school.
want to go to
It's
school,
not,
right?
yeah.
And if
yeah.
something's happening to them, let's just say like they're being bullied.
Yeah.
They're being called the N-word.
Yes.
They're being called things like, we're not talking about it because the teachers, I don't know how to do that with these laws in place.
Exactly.
I don't know how to have conversations about race and the things that my students are experiencing in their everyday lives.
Which is so needed.
Is so
Yeah.
needed. And then what happens is that you feel ignored. So for me, when I was growing up, it was like, favorite book was Anne of Green Gables, a white girl who was adopted, right? From
Yeah.
Canada.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Prince Edward Island.
Yeah, I still love to this day,
Yeah.
but I never read an Asian author. And so I didn't think we existed.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't until I was, 25 that I read my first Asian author. That was like a novel and everything, which
And crazy, 25. At
25 years old. Yeah. It's not okay. So for these kids, what happens, the net result of not seeing yourself in your curriculum, not seeing yourself in your teachers, right? Being told that you don't belong here, like literally being told that you don't belong here by the president of the United States.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Not once, twice, constantly.
And now
Constantly.
laws are coming out.
Yes.
Legislators in the state of New Hampshire.
It's not just the president saying it. Yeah.
Lots of folks, and they don't want you here. So how does that make me feel?
Exactly.
And I'm thinking also, we're talking race right now. Now let's talk about our trans students. When we create laws that don't let trans girls play sports, that take away bathroom access, right? The suicide rate for our trans youth is just obscene, obscene. So there is a real consequence. And for some, it is their life.
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunate. Unfortunate.
My struggle, as much as it's supposed to be for our transplants, if you will, those who came one way from somewhere else. And what I recognize is the struggle for my white youth, my 10, 11-year-old boys, is the vitriol that they're hearing. I've recognized that through the 4 different platforms of social media whether it's video games, whether it's music, whether it's movies, or whatever they're doing in that particular space, they can hear the N-word every 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? Every 2 to 3 minutes. The idea of recognizing that this becomes now something I am hearing so profusely. My frontal lobe is as far apart as it could possibly be right now. And everything I'm doing is out of emotion and response.
Yeah.
And I have this structure of everything being around me that looks like me. So trying these things on isn't that bad because everybody else wants to try it.
It feels normal.
Right? And it
Yeah.
feels normal to some degree because everybody knows that at right now we're not supposed to be saying it, but there's nobody around that tell us we're hurting their
everybody else is
feelings.
doing
But
it, so
everybody
can't
else
do
is doing
that.
it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the constant confusion that these children go through is what is becoming this division of our country.
And make no
Right.
mistake, these laws are coming down,
Right.
right? At the same time. So it's going to make it hard for the kid who is experiencing, the good kid who's experiencing that confusion. right?
Yes.
Now comes to school and we can't talk about it. at
Yeah.
school.
Right.
Yeah.
We can't have a discussion about, okay, so here's what we don't want to do is hurt our friends.
Mhm.
And most kids are going to kind of coalesce around that. I don't want to hurt
I don't want
somebody's
to
Yes.
hurt
I don't
somebody's
want
feelings.
to cause harm.
But I don't know how to
How
get
to-
this out of my system
Yeah.
because the truth of the matter is it's so normal to me.
Exactly.
Right? I have a black assistant principal who's got the dopest shoes on the planet and he's got more than 100 pair and I want to talk to him about his shoes and I care about this man, but
Yeah.
I've got this in my back pocket
Yeah.
and I know I can't say it in front of him and how do I tell him I got this in my back
And
pocket?
I'm a kid,
Right.
and I
And I'm
can't
a
go to
kid,
the
and I-
adults
right.
who could help me
Exactly.
and process
So-
and understand.
So it's so much more than just our students of color. It's about a division we're making with these kids at a cerebral level
Yes.
they don't even see happening.
Mhm.
They don't have the cognition to say, Mom and Dad, what you're saying right now would hurt Johnny.
Yeah.
What's on my TV that I'm walking past with no conscience about
Yeah.
because we're watching the news over and over on the next reel, on the next person, on the next personality, saying the same thing over and over again on whatever divisive political
Yeah.
station you're watching. Now those messages, these kids are just walking by and they're hearing this over and over. And I
Yeah.
struggle with that because they come in and they don't know any better.
Yeah.
They simply are, this is what I heard and this is what my people said. So this is what I think I'm supposed to think.
My parents, and I love I would say though, when I was growing up and raised by white folks and everything, my father used to have Rush Limbaugh like blaring back in the day, blaring. And my father would laugh at me and call me a feminazi and everything.
Oh, wow.
But I remember having these conversations. Just one, Rush Limbaugh sounds like a real bully. It does not sound like he is a man of God to my Christian father, right? And also, he's not telling the truth. But you know how I figured that out? School.
Yeah.
Right? Having some really amazing educators who helped me understand. They didn't tell me believe this thing or not believe that thing. They do like what teachers do today is put the information in front of you,
Yes.
guide you through a process of thinking, and then you think through
then you
your
make-
resources and decide
Choices
what
are yours
you
from there.
believe to be correct.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But you don't just get to walk in and have an opinion and then have that be fact.
Yeah.
But we live in a time where the truth can be said, not true. And then it's reinforced.
The truth
Yeah.
is
In
the
the media.
loudest thing that was said.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
That's becoming the truth. The thing that I can say louder than you, longer than you.
Yeah.
That's now the truth.
The truth.
Mhm.
That's the truth. And Tina, with your dad, then how did you maintain the love and respect for your dad? And
I think that, I don't know, we were estranged in the end.
okay,
We were
okay,
estranged
okay.
in the end. And
Sorry.
and
Okay.
no, but there's still love and respect,
Mhm,
you know.
mhm,
And for my mother, who we struggle to be in community
mhm.
together. I mean, they were raised Catholic, very
Yeah.
strict Catholic,
Mhm.
turned Christian in their later years.
Mhm.
They voted for Trump. They did not get a vaccine when COVID came out, right? And then my father ends up dying from COVID because he did not get a vaccine.
Wow.
So it's like, even watching, thank you, even watching, like even seeing that play out where the things that you were told were true, right? And we're talking now, it's a whole, your father, your husband, right? Like, there's a consequence to not figuring out and being really thoughtful about the choices you make. Yet still, people are still voting for this person. People are still talk about being inculcated and indoctrinated. Folks are still moving that way. But I think a lot of times what happens is if you feel like you don't have a voice and you have this easy rhetoric coming at you and it's reinforced everywhere, then what else am I going to do? It's reinforced at church. Right? It's and like the people that you look up to and your mentors. But I think what happens with students today, they're not hearing us talk about these things.
No.
They don't know why.
No.
How come just a few years ago we were talking about it and now it's radio silence? Like that, we don't even know the effect. We don't even know the effect of that silence. I'll tell you the silence for me, because it was always silent when I was a kid in terms of race and talking about gender and everything. It was, I have no idea who I am. All of my instincts, when I know I'm being treated differently, when I know that my friend who is Black is being treated differently, didn't get a thing that this kid got, right? I'm being told that that's not racist. That's just because he didn't earn it.
He didn't earn it.
Right? You're sold this story of meritocracy, right? And then when you were talking at the beginning of the session about, I was bad and I earned bad things. Like, hey, I just figured out, and I'm 48, right? That I don't have to earn a happy life. I should just freaking have it. Like a lot of people who woke up did, right? Like having a joyful experience, right? Having good food. I shouldn't have to earn it. You shouldn't have to earn your joy, right? So that's what I think is being sold to the kids. A whole lot of what I got, right? And worse, because I honestly believe that it was just Rush Limbaugh when I was a kid. Now it's everywhere. It is everywhere.
Everywhere. So that being said, and thank you, both of you. I mean, this has been phenomenal. We could go on for quite a while. Each of you, what do you want to leave our listeners with? Is there hope? I would say we can't lose hope. If we lose hope, we got nothing. So what do you want to leave the listeners with? As you know, we've talked about the doom and gloom. We've talked about some successes. Where are we at?
I think being purposeful is not necessarily just about doing something nice for people. Being purposeful is about creating the life you want around you, right? So when I go to work, I know it's a blessing to be at work, and they pay me for it too, right? So it's kind of dope, right? It's a blessing to be at work, and they pay me for it. So in turn, I feel going to work with purpose is why I make hot cocoa for my teachers, is why I make empanadas for my teachers, is why I say good morning to every homeroom, is why I go check on every classroom right after lunch, and I know the kids have just eaten and they got all that sugar and they was outside, right? So letting those teachers know that I believe my job is to be their support person.
Beautiful.
So that they understand they're doing the hard work, right? So I think as you go through life, you find what you can do purposefully and the reason for it. And then in turn, you're recognized for the heart you bring to the situation. So empathy is a bucket that only goes empty when you don't use it.
Yes. Well said.
So if I am constantly using that empathy, I know it'll be full when I need it. I'm not going to say I'm perfect. I'm not going to say I do this perfect, but I do it with a heart that says it's worth the work. So that's what I would leave with people.
Thank you. Thank you, Clyde. Thank you, Tina.
I think as gracious as you are, Clyde, that work is heavy. It's a heavy
Very.
lift. And so a part of the work that I do with the New Hampshire Educators of Color is to help sustain you.
Yeah.
Right. And I think all of this work at the end of the day, it's you and it's me. It's one-to-one. If we can't get there together, then there's no hope for the rest.
Yeah.
But I would say the hope for me right now, I mean, it is in our youth. Like there's still, you talk about perseverance, like kids are still getting up today and going to school. You know why? Because like sometimes, they're working on a cool project. They have this great teacher who's inspiring them. That is still happening. And
Yes.
people are doing the best they can to create a positive learning environment for kids, because that's actually how you learn in these positive learning spaces, right? Where you feel seen. I would also say in New Hampshire, one of my efforts, we're standing up a pro-public education coalition, bringing together grassroots and grass tops organizations to really advocate for public education, for fair funding. And, I think when folks have been at the table of power for a long time, it's really hard to think, oh, well, there's a different way.
Yeah.
But folks are realizing, oh, that way that we were practicing before is not working under these conditions.
Sure.
No.
So we're going to definitely need to hear from the people, and I think that's where it is. It's at that people power space. It's our going back to grassroots base, knocking on doors, engaging people, making folks feel involved in their own experience, in their own communities. And not just like, I'm going to tell you that you're involved. Like, we're going to involve you because we need you.
Yeah.
Right? So I think, now is not the time to, when you say like, oh, well, I don't want to go out and do more. I don't want to do a postcard campaign. That's okay. That's okay. But you know what? There's a place where you can get involved.
Sure.
So figure out like what your thing is and get in there. Like my thing, like I'm a gardener, right? And there are gardens at schools and people are looking for volunteers. Just be among the humans.
Sure.
Yes.
Be among the humans. And when there's an opportunity to move in with love and with grace, and we will get there.
Love and grace.
Yeah.
Well said, Tina. Well said. Well said. Tina, Clyde, thank you, both of you, for being here. It was amazing. Listeners, thank you for being with us on the Diaspora Door. We learned a lot, heard a lot. I hope that you're able to take some of the information that you've heard and be out there in your communities, connect with people who you have questions about, and people will genuinely know that you're inquiring because you want to understand their struggle, you want to understand their universe, you want to understand where they're coming from. So here we are with our youth. Education is so important. It just develops us to move one better, and we need to support that in the most objective way possible, and to have, love and grace, as Tina put it very eloquently. So again, listeners, thank you. Thank you for being here with us on the Diaspora Door. It's been a great time, and we look forward to seeing you again. And we'll definitely be bringing Tina and Clyde back. That's for sure. So thank you. Thank you, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Diaspora Door podcast is brought to you by Nze Obinalo and Anthony Daniel, and produced by Soundproof Audios. Distributed on Spotify and our website at www.diasporadoor.com. Executively produced by Nze Obinalo. Music mixing and mastering by Anthony Daniel. Signing out. See you next time.